Welcome to the first season of Convention Not, an assembly of thoughts between Mike and Ryan and our guests, who are also in pursuit of happiness and have found a little bit of success along the way. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and we hope you'll stick around for a while. You can find this on any of the major podcast networks, including Apple and Google Play. Please subscribe.
I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this before, but remember I used to have that beautiful long hair. For a minute, I had long hair, and it was great, dude. And I'll never forget the day that someone came up to me and just said, "Oh, you're losing your hair, eh?" That's how it was said to me, and I was just like, "What the fuck? Who are you?" Well, it was a guy who had just recently started losing his hair. So if anything, he was a good judge. I'm telling you, I remember where I was and when it was. So I never really cared that much about my hair. And then it just kept getting thinner and thinner. Well, and as my hair dissipated, I took a little bit more pride in my beard. As long as I could grow a beard, I've always grown a beard. Part of it's because my dad always had a beard. I always just figured, yeah, that's what people in my family do. They have beards. It just worked out to always have a beard and not have to take that much care of myself grooming-wise. But then in the last few years, beards have gotten so much cooler. And that's in contrast to why I ever wanted to have a beard. And nowadays, people talk to me about my beard and stuff, which is really nice. I should be so lucky because nobody's talking to me about my hair. So I'm always super self-deprecating about it. I'm like, yeah, it stopped. I stopped watering it up here and it just flourishes down here. And it makes me really uncomfortable when people want to compliment my beard because I'm like, I have two arms too. I don't want to be in any way, shape, or form defined by my beard. It's just part of me. And I'm not trying to have a nickname about my beard or be on Duck Dynasty. I have conversations with people in Hawaii all the time. People will approach me because they're in the military. And I'll see them just looking at me from across the room. And they'll come over and they'll be like, "Man, if I could, dude, I'd grow a beard." And I'm just like, "What?"
Really?
Because they got to be clean shaven, right, in the military.
Sure. Unless you're special ops.
I get that sometimes too, where people will just give me a nod. And I'm like, "Oh, no, not me."
You definitely look like SEAL Team 6.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is one day it'll look like this. And then a month later, it looks all hillbilly. Well, it wasn't until I was in Colorado last week and I needed to put a shirt on and dress up a couple times to where I was a little bit more cognizant of kind of how homeless looking I was. And that air, that dry air, it made it all crispy and crunchy. It was disgusting. But anyways, I come home and I had to trim it. I was not happy with it. And Nicole, without hesitation, is just yeah, you should. It's not the look you're going for. And I said to her, "Okay, when did you start feeling that way? How strongly do you feel that way about it?" And she just goes, "No, I don't mind it. I just know you don't want to be defined by your beard. And you kind of look like one of those people who wants people to talk to them about their beard. It looks kind of KKK." Whoa! I just go, "Damn, Junior, you need to give me a heads up before it gets to the looks kind of KKK. Let me know." Because I don't look in the mirror every day, right?
Somewhere between extra stubble and full Klansman would be a good heads up. Both of us write, and maybe you might want to talk about this, both of us write from an amateur perspective in trade journals and other things. But most of the content that you and I create, we don't own.
That's true. I write reports for other people.
I wrote a note about this in my pre-show prep notes because I did want to ask you a question about authorship. For my birthday, I got a year subscription to Masterclass. Are you familiar?
Mm-mm.
So Masterclass is online education. And I have been taking my first class, which is taught by Malcolm Gladwell. He, as we talked before on the podcast, is written a bunch of books. I'm a fan, not in an entirety, but certainly in the way that he arranges his information. And so masterclass is an assembly of courses that are taught from people that are unbelievable. Steph Curry teaches dribbling here.
Okay.
Malcolm Gladwell teaches about writing. So
it's interesting. I don't think of writing for fun. And that doesn't mean like I hate writing. I think of writing as like writing is like a formula, I guess. I mean, there's just like steps that I think need to be taken in order to reach a goal. You know, and I know that sounds kind of robotic, but to me, I mean, the creative part is kind of what I'm going to write about. And then like, what are some kind of unique angles I'm going to take on it? But when it comes to the actual process, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's got like just a start and a finish. And yeah, even talking about it, clearly I have no consistent procedure. I really don't. Do you?
I hadn't thought about it until I started taking this class with him. I think I just blurb. There's two ways I do it. One, I have an iPad with a little pencil, which has been helpful for me in note taking and in writing because I always like notebooks.
Nice.
So there's two ways I do it. One, I take a single page in that pencil and just blurb out a bunch of shit. And when I mean blurb out, it's almost like I can't even read it when I come back to it. Or I do the same thing on an email that I send to myself. It's different for professional writing. I end up writing a lot of user education, and my personality type, I think, is commander. So when I write from a professional perspective, I'm usually describing what somebody needs to do or trying to close the parentheses between what they're supposed to understand so that they are doing what I'm asking them to do. That is a different position from what I like to write, which is opening the parentheses to get people to read about things and think about.
Yeah, it's a very different type of writing.
It's harder for me, much harder for me to write, to open the parenthesis than it is to direct people.
Well, that's who you want to be. That's not necessarily who you are, though, right? I mean, I don't mean that in a negative way at all, but.
So I appreciate that feedback. That's very true.
As you make that comment, difference between kind of your personal or creative writing and your professional writing. I mean, I can definitely tell you my professional writing, when I write reports, right, I'm writing forensic reports. There is actual written standards for how forensic reports are required to be written. It's not that concrete. There's a little bit more wiggle room, but I wouldn't say room for creativity. So when it comes to forensic reports, I have only one objective, and that's clarity. I think that my writing style is a little bit different than other experts in that I'm a little more comfortable speaking in everyday terms because I think overuse of technical jargon is sometimes a bit of a cloak in an attempt to not break everything down. And my goal isn't to prove how smart I am to everyone. It's for everyone to reach the same conclusion. And typically, I'm really happy if they know what the conclusion is going to be before I get to it. So when I think about my professional writing, I've got the same like 5-6 headings. I know it's observations. I know the subsections of my analysis. And obviously I know what my conclusions are before I start writing it. Yeah, when you say how you do your creative process, and, you know, you email yourself. I have like, I'll write stuff down on my phone. You know what I mean? Like if I'm doing one of those articles on surfing or something like that, for me, the most exciting or the most interesting part of those is when I try to make an everyday analogies. That's the hard part because there's not that much stuff in everyday life that is comparable to this crazy shit that these people do. But that sort of stuff, like, you know, that'll come to me at the grocery store at 7:00 at night, and I'll shoot myself a quick memo on my phone. But that's the closest I have to a process when it comes to my creative writing. Like I have all these bubbles that I'll eventually try to kind of bring back together.
The creative part is a little bit similar for me. I set up an email address that's just my creative musings. It's probably 2.5 years old.
Okay.
And every so often I'll go back in there and look at this thing, and it's interesting what I think about.
Yeah.
I write these rap songs.
Really?
We aren't recording this, are we? Are we recording this today?
I don't know. You're the boss.
Oh man, I write these rap songs, which my wife could
Oh,
probably would not tell you about, but sometimes they get a little bit not safe for work. And so I set up this email address in all sincerity to begin to catalog my photos and my musings and letters to my nephews and nieces and things like this. But what I find is that I'm a little bit more of a poet in some ways, especially when I'm amped up. I have some emotional challenges sometimes that I act out, but I do get amped up. And often that's fueled by music. And so when I put those two things together, I'll end up sending myself emails to just this email address. And that's all that's in there.
I like that.
Is these like musings of years.
But it's poetry, right?